The whole town believed Sarah belonged to the richest rancher in Red Creek, until the day a dusty stranger rode into town, and everything changed. They called me the luckiest girl in Red Creek, a rich husband, a roof that doesn't leak, 3 meals a day. Luck had nothing to do with it. My father owed Marcus Kane a debt he couldn't pay, so he paid with me, Sarah's father, sick in bed, accepting money from Marcus. Sarah tries to refuse, but her father coughs, and she relents. They called me the luckiest girl in Red Creek. Luck had nothing to do with it. Present day. Sarah looks at her reflection. She doesn't smile anymore. Marcus doesn't want a wife. He wants an ornament, something pretty to lock in this house while he expands his empire. I am not allowed in town alone. I am not allowed to speak to other men. Marcus stands up, slams a ledger shut. He walks to Sarah, grabs her chin roughly, forces a smile. Tonight, the mayor dines with us. You will wear the blue dress. You will smile. You will not embarrass me. I was a prisoner in silk, and I thought, this is my life now. Until I saw a cloud of dust on the horizon. The whole town believed Sarah belonged to the richest rancher in Red Creek, until the day a dusty stranger rode into town. Until I saw a cloud of dust on the horizon. And everything changed. A lone rider. He's not dressed like a farmer or a rancher. He wears a dark duster coat and a hat pulled low. He rides with purpose. Stranger, later revealed as Jake. Red Creek, 1 street, 1 saloon, and too many secrets. I was just passing through, looking for work, looking to forget. You ain't here for the Kane wedding, are you? The bartender asked. Whole county's talking. Wedding? Kane finally caught himself a wife. Young thing, sad eyes, lives up in that big house on the hill like a bird in a cage. Who are you? Sarah asks, whispering in his ear. I told myself I was just curious, just scouting the land. But when I saw her at that well, the way she looked at the horizon like she was looking for a way out, I couldn't walk away. You shouldn't be here. Sarah speaks. You drop that bucket or you drop it on purpose. Some folks break things just to have a reason to leave the house a little longer. In Sarah's mind, he saw me. Not the dress, not the wife. Me. And for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe.
You, drifter, move along. Mr. Kane don't like strangers near his property. Just helping the lady. Sir, she ain't a lady, she's Mrs. Kane. Now go. He walked away. But she knew. It wasn't goodbye. That night, he was camped outside of town, near a creek. Just me, the fire, and the ghosts I carry with me. He stirred the embers and watched the sparks rise into the darkness, trying not to think about her, about them, but he couldn't help it. He reached into my coat and pulled out the only thing Jake carried for 5 years, a faded photograph, a woman, a little girl, his wife, his daughter. He touched their faces like he used to touch their real ones. The paper is worn smooth now from 1,000 nights, just like this one. Had a family once, a good life, until a rich man decided he wanted our land. He didn't ask, he didn't negotiate, he burned us out. My wife got sick from that night, the smoke, the cold, the terror, and my daughter. I couldn't save them. I couldn't save either of them. That was 5 years ago. I've been drifting ever since. But I made a promise that night, standing in the ashes of everything I loved. I promised that whenever I see a man stealing from the weak, I stay. I fight. I don't ride on. That promise is the only thing that's kept me alive. But I made a promise that night, standing in the ashes of everything I loved. I promised that whenever I see a man stealing from the weak, I stay. I fight. I don't ride on. That promise is the only thing that's kept me alive. That night comes back to me in flashes. The fire so hot it felt like the sun had fallen to earth. My wife's face in the window, our daughter in her arms. The sound of burning wood louder than my own screaming. I ran. God, I ran so fast. But I was too late. I was always too late. She died in my arms, right there in the dirt, he said. Our daughter never even had a chance. And the man who did it, he's still out there. Rich, respected, untouchable. Or so he thinks. But I've been hunting men like him for 5 years now, and I never forget a face. I never forget a crime. Back to present. He heard hooves before H saw them. 3 riders. Marcus is me. He knew by the way they sat their horses like they owned everything they looked at. They circled my camp slow, like wolves testing prey. The fire flickered between us. The lead one leaned down, torchlight making his face look like something from a nightmare. Mr. Kane don't like drifters sniffing around his wife, he said. Here's a horse. Here's the county line. Choose. His men laughed. They thought it was funny. They thought I was nobody. Jake looked at them. 3 men, 3 guns. And I said, and if I don't? They laughed harder. They drew their guns. But I was faster, not with my weapon, but with the truth. I shifted my coat, slow and deliberate, and let the firelight catch what was pinned inside. A U.S. Marshal's badge. I'm not a drifter, I told them. I'm investigating land fraud, theft, and possible murder. Now, who wants to be the first to explain that to a federal judge? Marcus had dinner with the mayor, and Sarah wore a silver gown with petals on it, just like Marcus commanded. The fabric was beautiful. Imported silk, he told me, like that was supposed to make me grateful. Across from me sat the mayor and his wife. Their smiles were as fake as mine. The conversation was stiff, polite, deadly. The mayor leaned forward, practically licking Marcus's boots. Marcus, the territory speaks highly of you. They say you might be the next state senator. Marcus just smiled that smile, the one that says he already owns everything he sees. A man provides for his town, Marcus said. I only want what's mine. He glanced at me when he said it, just a flicker of those cold eyes. But I knew what he meant. What's his included me. The table, the house, the land, the wife, all possessions, all property. I looked down at my plate and felt the walls closing in. Then came the knock. Not loud, but in that house, in that moment, it sounded like thunder. The music stopped. Every head turned. The butler hurried to the door, and I watched him whisper something to Marcus. Something that made Marcus's face go pale, then red with rage in the space of a heartbeat. He stood so fast his chair scraped the floor like a scream.
"Excuse me," he said through clenched teeth. A pest at the gate. But I knew. I don't know how, but I knew. It was him, the stranger from the well, the one who looked at me like I was a person, not a possession. Marcus stormed out, and I couldn't help myself. I excused myself, murmured something about feeling faint, and slipped out the back into the night. I hid behind a wagon in the yard, my blue dress getting dusty, and I watched. Marcus was confronting him, the stranger, and Marcus was furious. More furious than I'd ever seen him. I had to know why. Sarah crouched there in the darkness, barely breathing, and I heard things I was never meant to hear. Marcus was hissing like a snake. "You think you can threaten me in my own town? I own the sheriff. I own the judge. You're nothing." But the stranger, Jake, I would later learn his name, Sarah said, just stood there, calm as still water. "I'm a U.S. Marshal," he said. "I don't care who you own. I care about the 3 families you ran off last year, the ones who sold cheap and then vanished." And then he said it, the words that changed everything. "I have a witness," Jake said. "Sarah Bennett, your wife." I gasped. I couldn't help it. The sound escaped before I could stop it. And Marcus turned, slowly, like death itself. His eyes found me there, hiding behind the wagon, and in that moment, I became the most dangerous person in Red Creek. Not because of anything I'd done, but because of what I'd heard. Later that night, I was in my room. I tried the door, just to feel the handle turn, just to know I could. It didn't move. Locked from the outside. He'd locked me in. I was trapped. And here's the thing about Marcus. He didn't yell. He didn't hit me. That's how I knew I was in real danger. Marcus only gets quiet when he's planning. The yelling is for show. The silence is for death. He was planning something. Planning for me. I went to the window, hoping, praying that I'd see something, anything that meant escape. But when I looked down, the yard was crawling with armed men. Torches moving like fireflies. Guards patrolling with rifles, dogs. They were watching for Jake, watching for anyone who might try to help me. And there was nothing I could do but wait. Jake was in the shadows across from that house, watching, counting, timing. There were at least a dozen men patrolling the grounds, maybe more inside. And I knew I couldn't fight them all. 6 bullets, 15 men. The math didn't work. But she was in there, and I put her there. I should have kept my mouth shut at that dinner, should have waited, planned better. But I'd used her name like a weapon, and now she was paying the price, just like my wife paid, just like my daughter paid. I pulled out the photograph again. My girls, my lost girls. I looked at my daughter's face. She would have been Sarah's age now if she'd lived, and I made myself a promise I'd made before but never kept. I couldn't save my daughter, but maybe I could save her. Maybe that would be enough. Maybe that would make up for something. I put the photo away and moved closer. I tried to open the window. It didn't move. Nailed shut. Of course it was nailed shut. Marcus thought of everything. Jake whispered through the glass, "Stand back." He pulled out a knife and started working on the nails. And then, a screech. A cat, some stray, darted out of the bushes right at the guard's feet, hissing, spitting. The guard jumped back, then laughed. "Damn cats," he muttered, and turned away, shaking his head. He walked off into the night, never knowing how close he'd come. We ran to the barn, hid among the horses and hay, and there, in the darkness, I told her everything. Marcus wasn't just a bully, he was a criminal. He'd been stealing land for years, running families off, forging deeds, and if they resisted, they disappeared. Forever. I couldn't believe it. I didn't want to believe it. But then Jake said the words that broke me. "Your father's debt?" I think it was fabricated. I think Marcus targeted you because your father had a valuable plot of land he wanted. We didn't have time to grieve. We didn't have time to process, because then we heard it, the town bell, clanging loud enough to wake the dead. Lights flickered on all over Red Creek. Men shouted, dogs barked, and above it all, Marcus's voice. "Wake up, my wife has been taken. The marshal took her. Ride, ride." We saddled those horses faster than I've ever saddled anything. Sarah's hands were shaking, but she didn't stop. She didn't cry. She just moved. And when we rode out of that barn, we rode straight into the night with torches behind us and nothing but darkness ahead. No plan, no destination, just the will to survive, just each other. We rode hard through the night, harder than I'd ever ridden. Sarah kept up. God, she kept up, even though she'd barely been on a horse in months. The terrain got rougher. We were heading into Red Rock Canyon, and I knew it was dangerous, but I also knew it was our only chance. Behind us, torches flickered in the darkness. The posse was gaining. I could hear them sometimes when the wind shifted. Shouts, horses, dogs. They weren't going to give up. Marcus wouldn't let them. He needed me dead, needed both of us dead. We found it just in time. A small cave behind a waterfall, hidden, safe. We dismounted, and the horses drank from the pool while I collapsed against the rock wall, shaking so hard I couldn't stop. Every muscle in my body screamed, every thought in my head raced. I sat down next to her, close, but not too close, gave her space to breathe. For a long time, neither of us spoke. The waterfall muffled everything, the world, the danger, the past. It was just us, in that cave, alive when we shouldn't be. Dawn broke. The waterfall glowed golden in the morning light. For one perfect moment, I forgot where we were. Forgot the danger, the running, the fear. It was just beautiful, just peaceful, just us. Sarah looked at Jake. "He's lying. I said. "He'll kill you, Jake." And I meant it. I knew Marcus, knew what he was capable of. But Jake just looked at me with those tired, determined eyes and said, "Not today." He checked his revolver. 6 bullets. I counted. 6 bullets against at least 15 men. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw someone I hadn't seen before. She wasn't the victim anymore. She wasn't the bird in a cage. She was the strongest person I'd ever met. I nodded. We stepped out together into the dawn. We stood there, side by side, guns raised. 15 men on horses aimed rifles at us, and Jake's voice rang out clear as a bell. "Marcus Kane, you are under arrest for fraud, theft, and murder. These men with you, they can leave. No questions asked. But if you stand with him, you stand against the law." The men looked at each other. Some lowered their guns, but Marcus wasn't done. While the men wavered, while Jake spoke, Marcus sneaked around the rocks behind us. I saw him out of the corner of my eye, rifle raised, aimed at Jake's back. He was going to kill him. He was going to murder Jake while he was trying to save everyone. Sarah raised her rifle. Her hands shook so hard she could barely hold it. She had never pointed a gun at anyone in my life, never wanted to. But in that moment, I knew, if she didn't act, Jake would die. Just like her father died. Just like those families died. Just like Jake's family died. I was on Marcus in seconds, pinned him to the ground before he could even scream. "It's over, Marcus," I told him. And for once, he didn't argue. He just lay there, bleeding, defeated, finally facing justice. Weeks later, I stood at my father's grave. Not in silk, not in a cage, in a simple riding skirt, with the wind in my hair and the prairie stretching forever around me. I told him everything, the truth about Marcus, about the debt that never was, about Jake. I like to think he heard me. We rode together toward the setting sun, not as prisoner and savior, not as victim and hero, as equals, as partners, as two people who'd found each other in the darkness and somehow, impossibly, made it to the light.